It has been quite a lovely journey, having everyone on board and getting this whole thing with the aspect of ecopreneurship. And I'm proud to be part of the journey. And I know you're also happy to be part of this whole journey with the aspect of getting our insights, with the aspect of getting these whole ideas when it comes to addressing nature and climate emergencies. Currently, you can bear with me, and for the fact that it's no more a challenge, the climate change is no more a challenge, it's currently a crisis. And we are finding so many stuff when it comes to mitigation and adaptations, and the Ecopreneurship project. This is one way we can help in our own aspect to resolve and also bring up innovative and novel solutions to the platform. So without much ado, we will have a recap of what happened last week, just 5 to 10 minutes of it, our ideas, what we shared and what we've been able to use such ideas for. So just 5 minutes, if you have anything to say, just raise your hand or mute yourself and then we get started. Thank you.
Yeah, Nana, maybe you want to share that prompt one more time, just to make sure everyone is very clear on the question.
Okay, we're having a recap of what happened last week on environmental issues in Ghana and what you've been able to identify, what you've used such knowledge for, what everything which were presented by Desmond Alugnau, the co-founder of Gaio. So what have we used such information for? Just a recap, 10 to 5 to 10 minutes, and we are done. Then we will have what we came here to do today. Jeff, do you have anything to share with us?
Okay, so if I'm given an opportunity to come on the floor.
Yeah, you can talk.
Yeah, so last week we had a special guest here, the co-founder of Gaio. I mean, he was here and we had a great conversation about certain opportunities Gaio has for us in certain thematic areas. We also discussed a little bit about, environmental related issues such as plastic pollution and climate change and how we can, recycle plastic products into useful products and so many other.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. And he gave his comment on circular economy, disaster risk reduction, and climate change, the thematic areas that Gaio plays so much role in there. So can we take one or two more, then we proceed to the main activities for today? Anyone? Jackie, Perryman, anyone can give the thought on that? Yeah, Jeff, are you taking it up?
Yes. Good evening to everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
For me, last week, unfortunately, I couldn't enjoy the program because I was having technical challenges with my app, so I couldn't join. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And so do we have the last or two people? Then we just jump up to the activities for today.
Yeah, let me also just add to that. Even if you weren't able to join last week, through the readings and the videos as well, it would be really helpful to get your impressions both from the speakers, but also the assignments too. So Jeff, if you have any insight, I think that might be helpful to share, because we really want to present a thoughtful, broad range of environmental issues.
Okay, so we have one from Melissa. She said, Desmond was fabulous speaker. We discussed the tough questions on how to implement solution, how to teach youth the importance of consuming responsibly. That's the aspect of conscious waste when it comes to the aspect. And also he touched on generation of sustainable revenue and the compost project. Okay. All right, Jack, you can come in.
Hi there. Hi there.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, great. So I really enjoyed the video that we had for this week by Ann-Mei Chang. She just had so many thoughts that I thought were really like profound to think about. So, one was when she talked about like starting small. And I thought like that really mirrors, what we're doing in this fellowship. But a question that came to mind for me was, when you're starting small, how do you know that the population that you're working with is representative of your community at large? So that was just, something I was really thinking about this week. She also emphasized like this culture of data and experimentation. Because like I have worked as a project evaluator, I really liked what she had to say about vanity metrics versus like actionable metrics to show success. Again, like working as an evaluator and a fundraiser, sometimes we get caught into this cycle of like having data or having a metric, like just to make ourselves feel good. But I would say like what resonated with me most was the phrase like to fall more in love with our problem than its solution. I just think it's something as leaders to really keep in mind and to be aware of, is like that it really is about like the issue that's at hand, and not about necessarily like coming in and being the magician that has the solution and all the answers.
Wow, that's great. Thank you very much on that input when it comes to leadership. Thank you very much, Jackie, for that. We appreciate that. Okay, so without taking much time, we'll move on to the next activity for our speaker to come in to give us his expertise and insight when it comes to ecopreneurship. So I'll do the honor to introduce the speaker, Joshua Tete Ajayi, with his autobiography. So I'll do the honor. Joshua is a social entrepreneur, public speaker, and advocate for youth empowerment. As a co-founder of the Emblem Farms and executive director of Youth Alliance on Sustainability, Joshua works to promote sustainability and support youth engagement. He serves as the Volta Regional Coordinator for the PLO Lumumba Foundation, and is a member of organizations such as the National Network of Youth Groups, NNYOG, Youth Climate Council, YCC Ghana, United Nations Major Groups for Children and Youth, UMMGCY, and the UNFCCC's Yango ACE working groups. Joshua has been recognized for his expertise in climate change, having spoken on the topic at African and South Asia Regional Dialogues in 2020. As a fellow of both the Ghana and West African Schools on Internet Governance and a member of the Youth Coalition on Internet Governance, YCIG, he actively works to advance digital rights and internet governance for youth at the local, regional, and global levels. As a delegate at the 2020 Internet Governance Forum in Ethiopia, Joshua contributed to discussions and made inputs to the Global Digital Compact. He is also a MasterCard Foundation Alumni Network Ambassador for the Volta region. In his free time, Joshua enjoys reading and meeting new people and hopes to witness a truly inclusive society. Thank you very much, Joshua, for being on the call. And personally, I know him since last year, 2020, and it was really amazing having him actually on board. It's actually my boss. And Joshua, thank you for being on the call. And over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you call. I must say I didn't really prepare slides. I'm just going to have sort of an informal discussion. One of the things I'd just like to begin with was done by one Mr. Asari. It's on YouTube. Just Google what a scrapyard in Ghana can teach us about innovation. And you could see the level of innovation that goes into doing a lot of things. Personally, I remember back in 2018, when I was with one of the entrepreneurship hubs in Accra, one of the guys who was a tech lead over there. So the CEO, and this was iSpace Foundation Ghana, maybe most of you may have heard of it. The CEO had a problem with his laptop, Apple laptop. He was in the US at the time, and he went to one of their, told him was, just this thing is unrepairable. It can't be repaired. Just add some money and then buy a new one. He bought a new one, but he still brought the sport one to Ghana and gave it to the tech lead. The tech lead just within 3 days was able to get the machine to work. And we've seen a lot of these kinds of innovation from people working with spare parts, people working in various areas that has to do with fabrication of things. And in management, managing entire companies. And it isn't because we learned these things, not because things are rosy here, but because things are actually hard. And there's a saying that hard times create good leaders, right? Good leaders create soft times, and then soft times then create soft people, which then cycles around, brings back the hard times, and then out of the hard times, the good leaders come up, or the hard people that are needed to drive change and innovation come up. And I think that's the beauty of it. One of the mistakes that I'd say, should I even call it a mistake, but not a missing link, something that we've not been able to really link, is to see this informal group of people who are doing very well innovatively and link them to the formal educational institutions that can be able to churn things right. I, for one, am very happy. I heard in the news quite a while back that the Kumasi Technical University, right? Science and Technology University is running a course for some people in Kumasi called, they are in an area called Swami Magazine. And these are actually people who manufacture cars. You bring sports cars, crappy cars to them, and they change it into workable plush cars in a twinkle of an eye. But these people are not certified. So this is what the university in Kumasi is trying to do, to get them certified and then to get them up to speed with the new kinds of diagnostic machines that are there. And I think this is a good way to begin our conversation into what really sustainability is, and then what it can mean for climate action and eco-entrepreneurship. And as I know it, eco-entrepreneurship is about building sustainable businesses that solves environmental problems as well as human problems. And as we know, sustainability is described as using our resources efficiently or in a way that also secures the next generation's ability to use these same resources that we have on Earth. So I think there's something that we can start thinking about. But also, there is, of course, the issue of global policy and the geopolitics surrounding all these things. One of the should I say blockades that I came across recently after entering into the internet governance space is that when it comes to using the internet, we in Africa, we only have one IP address, right? And if I'm, kindly correct me if I'm wrong, right? We use the universal IP address, whereas in places like the US, the UK, I mean, most developed countries, you can have an IP address dedicated specifically to you. And so we have a lot of trouble getting onto or using the best parts of the internet for productivity. One of the things being Wikipedia. I was recently part of a trainer of trainers for the whole heart, and whilst we were doing the training, I couldn't log on, and so were a lot of my colleagues, because Wikipedia had blocked that IP address. Because it doesn't make sense that a lot of computers are logging in using the same single IP address at the same time. It looks fishy. So Wikipedia is right. But the problem is, because we have that policy issues, so then the goal of Wikipedia trying to get more African stories, then we are facing that difficulty in trying to bring up our own stories. So you see the problems keep repeating, and this is where systemic thinking comes in. In order to be successful as ecopreneurs, or people who build businesses that are responsive to our environmental and human needs, we need to understand the ecosystem that we are playing in. And as entrepreneurs, we need to understand that we are not just building businesses to thrive, but we are building an ecosystem, right? And as such, for an ecosystem to thrive, we need to enable all sides, all players. So it has to do with policy, it has to do with bringing up subjects in STEAM, right? Science, technology, engineering, arts, and then mathematics, right? And then bringing up all these other things that we see. That is what I try to do on a daily basis as an entrepreneur. I own, or should I say, I co-own a poultry farm. Last year, it didn't go well at all. Most of our poultry died. We are trying to see if we can mobilize some money and start a new cycle this year. But it goes back to what I said, playing in the ecosystem. And as part of being an entrepreneur in the ecosystem, I have tried to engage at the local level our policy makers, right? And policy implementers. I remember one engagement that we had. I asked them one simple question. We asking them, they were bringing Veronica to the country, just sending them to schools. I mean, good safeguard measures. But are you telling me that there are no fabricators in the Volta region that can serve the schools in the Volta region, right? Are you telling me that there are no pharmacists in the Volta region that can create hand washing soaps, or how do we call the alcohol, right? The the hands have people capable of building these things in the Volta region and serving the Volta region. Are you telling me that we who can then operate, right, and then serve their regions? By doing so, what you are doing is you are among startups, right, among the local fabricators, and you are pushing them to then adopt good practices. So that, for example, if they now enter into the free trade area and you have an investor from South Africa come and say, hey, I want someone who can deliver 10 million tons of XYZ, you would have a lot of entrepreneurs in Ghana bidding for that contract and being able to get that contract and being able to implement and deliver on that contract, as opposed to the usual unicorns that we have in Accra, who are actually owned by politically exposed persons. And these are some of the things we need to look at as up and coming sustainability advocates, climate champions, and ecopreneurs. I'll stop here. Yeah, this is meant to be a discussion. So far, if you have any question, you can ask, and then before we move forward.
Okay, Jackie, you can come in. You can unmute yourself and then ask your question.
Hi, Joshua. I had a question for you about the poultry. So I could have missed something because it was cutting out a bit on my end, but I understand that the chickens, like, all passed away. What do you feel was like the major factor in that, and why did that happen?
I think it was due in part to climate change, right? What we're running was an open space kind of poultry, right? Where you are just doing the deep litter system. They are in a large warehouse, right? And where the land is located is quite downstream. So at the time, it started raining cat and dog in Accra, right? And the farm is located in Accra, in my cousin's house, who happens to be my co-founder, right? So every time it rains, it beats them. Sometimes I'll be on the phone with my cousin till around 4 a.m. in the morning, right? From night when the rain starts. And then we are figuring out how to keep them warm, how to bring the temperature up in the coop so that they don't get, and we managed to keep them okay for some time, but at 6 weeks, they all started dying rapidly. And this was also at the same time where there was rapid inflation in the country. So the limited funds that we had got eaten up, right? Because let's say you're getting them to the veterinary at this time. The next week you go to buy something, some medication for them, the price has just tripled, right?
Wow.
For example, I remember we bought feed. I think for a week, you can't keep them because if you keep them, it goes bad. So we actually buy on demand. So we buy every week. You buy from 170, we're buying it at 250. And that was that was a difficult time for us. And if you can even do the research, Google it, around 400 farms, poultry farms in Ghana have closed down between 2020 and closed down. And this has skyrocketed our reliance on importation of poultry. So right now we are importing, used to be about 90% with 10% produced locally. Right now, everything is imported. Everything.
Wow.
Is imported.
Okay.
And that's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I work as a public advocate in the food security space. So these are issues that I've heard a lot about, but hearing your firsthand account is just really startling. Are there other areas besides poultry that that you're seeing this in Ghana?
Yes, yes. Yes. I mean, a friend of mine who is into piggery made a similar complaint. Albeit for him, the weather had no impact on him at all, but the economic situation did have an impact. So they had to sow, according to him, they never even benefited from the proceeds of that pig because everything was just for 2 weeks. And you know how expensive. So if they are to sell a full-grown pig and then use the proceeds to just take care of the other pigs for just 2 weeks, that should give you a picture of how bad things were in the country. Right now, so if you pick 1,000 cedis, for example, just by taxes alone, right? Let's even not talk about inflation. Just by taxes alone, what is now happening is 1,000 Ghana cedis right now is worth 800 cedis just by taxes alone in 2022. Sorry, 2023, beginning this year, just by taxes alone. So if you factor in inflation, that drops the value of 1,000 Ghana cedis to about 450, 300 cedis, right? And that is what we are facing in this country. So now you might have a huge sum of money, but the value is so small, so minuscule that you can just survive on it just for a few days. And that for me is a huge problem that entrepreneurs, and that's why I say it also is a problem. I'm in the office, my co-workers are talking to me. So it also adds to what I'm talking about. It's a problem of identifying the various problems in the ecosystem, right? The various problems in the ecosystem and working to address them. One of the key things, congratulate Gaio for doing, is bringing or supporting or convening the Youth Climate Council, bringing a semblance of, or bringing a platform where sustainable entrepreneurs or sustainability-driven entrepreneurs can come and then share ideas and network. And for me, that is one key thing of making sure young people's voices are heard in the country. Climate change is a serious issue. It is affecting every part of our lives. And the earlier we get into that discussion and make serious inputs and ask for accountability, the better it will be for all of us. We are not operating in silos. We need to remember that.
Thank you very much.
We are not operating in silos. We need to remember that. So one from Perryman, Joshua, what changes in internet governance would have the greatest impact on ecopreneurship ecosystem?
Well, for one, I think, and I said it during discussions in Ethiopia, that the UN has to be collapsed and rebuilt from scratch. A multilateral organization cannot convene a multi-stakeholder institution. ICANN is multi-stakeholder, right? And ICANN oversees internet governance. Now, the UN contains the forum, and UN is multilateral. And so that is why we are having these problems where countries that have less economic power have less influence over how they use the internet. Because the question is, why is it that when internet was getting to the developed productivity, education, but then when it entered Africa, media, distractions. Now, I am not saying make money out of them, but the problem is sense of the 13 million Ghanaians productively, right? So it makes sense of us, right? They're 98.
Joshua, you can turn off your camera so that we can have quality.
Okay, sure. So, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Great. So, like I was saying, that is one of the things that we need to look at, right? First, the UN, the structure is gotta go. If the UN has to come in as what it is, it has to be stricken down and rebuilt from scratch as a multi-stakeholder organization, because right now, what we are going is leave no one behind. Multilateralism actually encourages the one with the most power should take everything. That is what multilateralism encourages, right? It encourages, capitalism feeds off of multilateral. So if we want to strike out this notion of because I have the economic power, I should have it all, then the UN has to be rebuilt from scratch as a multi-stakeholder organization. That is one. Two, like I said, leaving no one behind means that if you have the resources in excess and you are not using them, redistribute them. It's as simple. And then we get to learn that in the US, for example, one person is entitled to about 5 or 6 different IPs. Whereas in Africa, you have about 30 people using an IP. Does that make sense? Right. Right? Does that make sense? So like artificial intelligence, digital tech, a real part to play in enabling least developed countries to also climb up the economic ladder. Any other question? And your mic is off.
Okay, it's getting really exciting. You can equally put your questions in the chat box or raise your hand and you'll be called. As stated, multi-stakeholder cannot hold the multi-lateral organizations, and that's going to be a huge sum, which is already happening. So if we have to get things moving, then things must be looked in that angle. So can we have a few more questions, and then we can have the last feedbacks or presentation from Joshua, then we wrap things up.
Yeah, maybe I'll just ask a quick question that I think can help folks, because ultimately we're thinking about ecopreneurship projects. And the question is for Joshua, for young folks in Ghana and then supported by the US team here, if they're thinking about solving issues in their communities, where do they start? What process should they take to find the right issues and go about it in an authentically community-driven way, and also to lead to effective impact?
Yes, that's a great question. So in Ghana, on paper, if I should say, on paper, okay, let me start this way. So Ghana is divided into various administrative blocks. We have the central government, Then you have the regional administrative blocks, and then you have the districts, municipals, and metropolitan. So Accra, you have the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. In the Volta region, the region that I am from, you have its capital being Ho. And Ho is a municipal, so it is governed by the whole municipal assembly. In the constitution, the municipal assemblies are supposed to be the implementers or drivers of development in their various jurisdictions. And I am saying in the constitution because decentralization in Ghana is not really decentralization, if I should say so. It's more like on paper, we're giving the assemblies all the powers. But when it comes to implementing, what do you need to implement? Definitely you need resources. And a large chunk of that resources is financial. And you use the financial to purchase the human and the logistics, right? So if the financial is limited, then the assemblies also have limited power in terms of what they can do. And that is the problem. But for young people who are seeking to find places in their communities where they can participate or be part of a solution or come up with solutions, the best place to go is your municipal assembly, your local assembly. So your district, your municipal or your metropolitan assembly. I get that it is very, very difficult in the big cities, but in our municipal assembly, what we have been able to do, and it has been a long journey. We started this since the inauguration of a certain platform that we call the CSO's platform on the SDGs, right? The Civil Society Organizations platform on the SDGs. It was inaugurated in 2018. And since then, youth organizations found each other on that platform, and we decided to work together as one. So what we have done since 2018 till now is to, as a whole, engage with the municipality. So we don't go as a single organization or individual organizations. We go as a unit. We choose a topic for the year, and we go as a unit. We make inputs into the assembly's planning, annual action plan, budgeting, and then we help them in implementation. We engage them, right? And because we always go as a unit, some of the inputs we make gets its way into the action plan once it is accepted nationally. And that is one of the things I have seen. Consolidate power. Do not go on your own. Right now, as I'm speaking to you now, right, with most of the youth organizations in the municipality, we have an open door policy with the assembly. We call on them anytime and they heed us. We call on them to engage them in terms of tracking implementation. Just, was it 2 days ago or 3 days ago, we engaged them in the tracking of public funds, how they expended public funds within 2022. We engaged them, they provided us with a report. We did some few changes, asked some few questions. They have gone back and they are doing their homework. And this is how we can help, really, at the community. Because look, forget the key power. They keep implementing the government machinery under the office of the presidency, right? To limit the power of the assemblies. But the little budget that the assembly is given, we can start our impact from there. And this is what we are building. Now, Ho is gearing up to become a metropolitan. And we are going to solidify what we have built. This multi-stakeholder engagement that we have built with the assembly. And once it is solidified, when we are beginning to build a metropolitan that is even better than Accra. Because what was going to happen is we now become plugged into the annual activities of the assembly, where when it comes to engagement, they call on us. When it comes to engaging the communities, they still call on us. When it comes to meeting the stakeholders, they call on us. When it comes to appraisals of the municipal assembly, they still call on us. So we have entered into their activities, and we are making sure that we are influencing things at the local level. And for me, that is what I think every young person in Ghana should do. Identify other young people in your community, mobilize, and meet your local assembly. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joshua. You have to mobilize people, like minds like you in the youth category, so that you can meet up with the local assembly. This is one thing that Joshua said. So can we have one or two, if you have any suggestions, any contribution, questions, anything related to our topic for today, ecopreneurship? Joshua, this is one thing I would like to ask personally with aspects of the challenges. With ecopreneurship, you're not going to have it very easy. There are certain challenges which will definitely come to you. So in that regard, what are some of the challenges are we to expect when we start this whole aspect of ecopreneurship or business or entrepreneurship? How can we overcome some of them based on your experiences so far?
Sorry. For me, the first thing is you have to be very passionate in Ghana. I mean, that's the first thing they'll tell you in entrepreneurship school. But even more so in a developing country, because it can drive you mad. You need, and you see, there is no straitjacket rule. There is no straitjacket rule about it, right? There are tons of mistakes I have made over the years because I was too passionate about my idea, right? And now most of those ideas are in a ditch somewhere. Of course, if I get money, if I become a billionaire, I'll make them work though. But that is one thing. You need to understand the ecosystem that we are in. In Germany, for example, in 2018, when I was in iSpace, one person was giving a presentation, and he said in Germany, for example, after completing the university, if you want to be an entrepreneur, the government gives you about 2,000 euros, if I'm correct, 2,000 euros every month for a year, just to learn how to make mistakes as an entrepreneur. And we know that entrepreneurship thrives on try and error, right? You need to fail and fail fast, fail rapidly, and burn all of those failures until you find. But you need to burn it in such a way that you don't burn more cash. And it is even more so in a place like Ghana, because in Ghana, first of all, your entire family is dependent on you. And you now want to come and say you are doing try and error. What do you mean? What do you mean? Try and error. You get the point. So you have less chances to fail in a country like Ghana. Not because, but the system will not allow you. The system will not allow you because most of us are coming from broken homes anyway. We were raised by single parents. Most of us, by the age of 20, our parents are retired, right? So they are looking in to you to help. Most of us were brought up by extended family members, and they are looking into cash in. And you now want to do what? Try and error as an entrepreneur. What do you mean? So, like I'm saying, the passion is needed, but it can also lead you astray, where maybe you have the chance to, let's say, sell your idea for a few thousand cedis that can cushion you and maybe push you towards your next idea. And you're like, they say we should persevere, be passionate, be like the Bill Gates and everything. Bill Gates went to Harvard. The mother was already a multi-millionaire. All these people, you get a point. So that's one thing. Once we need to be passionate, we need to understand the situation in which we are in. And the second challenge is policies do not favor entrepreneurs in this country. It is meant to, the policies that come are populists. They are just populist, sloganeering, populist policies, but on the ground, they are not meant to help you. They are meant to stifle growth and ensure the reign of the already existing unicorns that are owned by politically exposed persons. That's one thing you should know. Because how can you, for example, and this is an example, not discrediting anybody here, this is just a scientific example. You create a FESHS policy, good policy, right? Which can enable the farmers in this country become multi-millionaires in the next 4 years. And I'm telling you, give a company that is importing tin fish to the students in the school. Where should the poultry farmer get the markets? Right? And these are things that you need to keep in mind. It is not rosy in a country like Ghana, and albeit for all developing countries. The policies are meant to break us. That is one thing. And the third thing I'll say, please, as entrepreneurs, learn to play both sides. Do not let your emotion for one politician cloud your judgment. Learn to play both sides. They have been playing us for how many years now? 65 since independence. And that's one thing I learned the hard way. Do not put your trust 100% in any politician. Always make sure that your eggs are scattered across board. At that point, whichever basket yields, you would have an egg in there.
All right. Do not place your eggs in one basket. We have to equally distribute them. So this one is from Melissa. Are youth involved in renewable energy promotion or creation of infrastructure, working on obtaining jobs and getting finances for this area?
The question again, please.
Are youth involved in renewable energy promotion or creation of infrastructure, working on obtaining jobs and getting finances for this area?
Okay, so yes, a lot of young people I think one of the people I read about, I'm not mistaken, I just forgot her name, Agbefu, and right now she is things, right, from fecal matter to plastics, recycling, and everything. And of course, the financial aspect is also coming, but it is not as it is. For example, and I was a novice at that time in 2016 when I was entering, bouncing off ideas, you leave the Volta region, you come to Accra, you are at a hub and you're bouncing off ideas, you are pitching and everything. And every investor that comes says they want an idea. And when someone comes and says he wants to invest in an idea, means that an idea on paper that you have not implemented yet. And then we go and pitch and they like your idea and everything, but then they invest in the one who has already gotten his business up and running. And that taught me a bitter truth, right? To be able to access most of the funding, your business should be up and running, right? And for most of the Ghanaian young people, getting the business up and running is the problem because naturally you come from a financial porous background. And that is the issue in Ghana currently. And we've heard about speeches, start small and gradually scale up, but it's not easy. It's not easy when you have, let's say, 500 Ghana cedis that you've saved for buying a feed for the next week, and then your mom is admitted to the hospital, and that's the only 500 Ghana cedis you have, right? And these are practical situations on the ground that I'm giving you. So are you going to watch your mother die or and save your business, or you are going to save your mom and then hope to God that you get some other monies later? And that is one thing that I've been telling entrepreneurs I come across. Do not let the Silicon Valley movies into your head. And that's one thing, because the financial institutions are there, albeit they are very few. They are there ready with money, but until you make money, you are not getting, as opposed to other countries where they actually finance ideas. In Ghana, until you make money, you are not getting any investment. And that's the big issue.
Wow. That's really a problem, and we would like to thank the U.S. Embassy, Empowerment Works, and 10 Billion Strong for coming up with this project to support the youth in Ghana with this aspect of ecopreneurship. We really appreciate that, because it's not really easy, as Joshua said, to get funds to start your project. That's an issue that we are facing in here. So if we get such opportunities being offered to us, a privilege, then we really have to utilize that in that regard. And this is a personal question to Joshua. I think we can have the last question right after mine. Maybe we take one or two, then we can wrap up things. So how do you see the future of ecopreneurship and its impact on environmental sustainability in the coming years, in general, like in general overview with the aspect of ecopreneurship in Ghana?
For me, I think ecopreneurship is the future, because I mean, since I started hearing of Jesse, right? Gender, that's gender and social inclusion in the workplace, Jesse policies, and all these things. I started hearing of it, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, and right now in every bit of training that I get into, there's a Jesse policy. You tell you as an entrepreneur, you need to have a Jesse policy, and it shouldn't just be a piece of paper. You should look at what parts of your work supports the environment, what parts of your work empowers people, supports gender inclusion, supports diversity, disability inclusion, people empowerment, and environmental empowerment as well. So I think it is the future. It is coming. The earlier that entrepreneurs realize that the only way out is now to focus on things that will safeguard humanity and the environment at large, the better. I think it is going on well, but I think we can do a little bit more. In Ghana, I think is there will be the awareness in Ghana, as has always been the case, but then implementation would become a problem, as has always been the case, unless something drastic changes. And this change that I'm talking about is unless young people begin to mobilize and to make a voice, right? Begin to, for example, fix the country, right? Let me just use fix the country as an example. And you see, when we're calling for fix the country, other people were saying what? Change your behavior. So it is a two-way street, right? You cannot call and say fix the country whilst you yourself have not exhausted the existing opportunities that are even there. And I think there are a lot of opportunities that young people have to influence policy, and even to the point of implementing these policies. We have not been able to fully utilize them, but we are calling for a systemic overhaul. That cannot happen. The only way it can happen is if we present evidence and say, we have been able to exhaust all these opportunities, we need a new one. So for me, I think it is a two-way street. We are calling for a systemic overhaul, but then the opportunities that are here right now, let us fully utilize them. For me, for one, I say, go to your district assembly. Ask them of the medium-term development plan. Let them furnish you with that plan. Look at projects that are aimed at building the capacity of young people, building the capacity of businesses, and see how your projects or your ideas fit into the assembly's plan and help them implement. If they begin to see you as an ally, they would open doors for you. And believe me, I am seeing it in Ho Municipal, where, for example, we are holding a program and then we are having the regional minister invite us to his office saying that in 2023, the Volta Regional Coordinating Council wants to be a partner for that program, right? And for me, that's a huge opportunity for a whole minister to recognize us as allies, right? That is a huge opportunity. And what we did is what I am saying. We went to the municipal assembly, we asked, and we implemented.
Thank you very much, Joshua. And you have to work hand in hand to be an ally to your municipal assembly to get the needed details. That's the first thing. If you don't understand what's going on in there, you may possibly crash on the way. Thank you very much. And can we take the last question? If not, Arnold can come in to give us the next overview for the next session. That's next week, a week by this time. So just a question from our participants so that we can wrap things up. I think possibly we've exhausted all the questions. Maybe as time goes on, we can. Okay, Joshua.
Oh, no. I think if there are no questions.
Okay, so Arnold can take over now to give us what we should expect next week. That's the third week of our training. Thank you very much, Joshua. We really appreciate your insight and your directives with the experiences you've had so far when it comes to ecopreneurship, and saying ecopreneurship is the future for this nation when it comes to environmental sustainability. And we really appreciate Arnold for this opportunity for the youth when it comes to getting the youth so much to involve in all this aspect. I was on the program, that's the model as well, and I really learned a lot. And I know all those who have been on the program also learned a lot. Thank you very much. So over to you, Arnold.
Yeah, just to close us out today. Well, first, thank you, Joshua, for joining us and sharing ideas and wisdom, and also importantly, energy, because I think we need ideas, wisdom, and energy if we're going to make a meaningful difference in the communities that we care about. And so with that in mind, we will spend next week with a session that I'll facilitate. We'll really try to dig a little bit deeper into the nuts and bolts of entrepreneurship, thinking about business models, thinking about how to actually go from idea to taking action. So if you haven't yet, please try to catch up on some of the materials and also just prepare for an interactive session next week. So let's try to find the strongest Wi-Fi or internet connection that we can, as well as a quiet location for some good group brainstorming, because we'll do some breakout groups. So looking forward to next week, and we'll talk soon. And thank you all for being here.
Sure. Bye. Thanks for being on the call.